Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon, and today I'm going to be talking about what, in my opinion, is overall the hardest skill in jungle, and that's really going to be jungle tracking, but more so like putting yourself in the jungler's shoes. So not just like, you know, the basic jungle tracking things, but also thinking about what he wants to do and seeing if you want to prevent that or what you can do in regards to that. So we're kind of just going to go into that. So initially, the thing that you really need to understand are jungle timers in the early game to understand how to track the jungler, and then later on it becomes a bit more intuition because you're not going to be able to track as specific timers. So initially, if you start on, let's say, red side, and this is just, you can reverse this if you start on blue side, but let's say you start on red side. If I start on red side and I go towards blue side, if I full clear normally, I'm going to want to go back to red side around 2 minutes and 30 seconds roughly, because that's when my camps are going to start to respawn. Then I'm going to go back to blue side around 3:45, and then finally about 5 minutes I'm going to go back to red side. And these are rough timers, they're not exact things, it's just if you add 1 minute 15 seconds roughly to each of those times, it works pretty well. And again, you can flip it around, so if you start blue side, you go back to blue around 2:30, and then back to blue again on 5. That's just the typical timers, but that's an initial important thing to understand, because first you have to understand it for yourself in order to time your own clear properly, but then you have to understand it for tracking the enemy jungler. And so we're going to show you guys kind of how I do that pretty well, and how that leads to me making a few decent like assumptions, and sometimes leads to nothing. Like there's a time where Teemo's going to die, I tell him he's going to die, he still dies, and like we'll show you, you know, obviously you can't prevent everything, but just where this information can be useful. And so here is where we get the information. We see that Jarvan's bot side, we saw him on bot side, and so now I have one of two options. So if I see someone go bot side, I'm top side, I now have to determine, is it more likely that I get some level of value from staying topside and being unmatched? Or do I think it's more likely that I need to go prevent him? Because right now, again, he's probably not going to need to go to his red side for another 20, 30, 40 seconds. And so before that time, he might look to gank my bot lane. So the question would be, do I think my bot lane are gankable? In this case, I don't really think they're gankable. They're Braum and Caitlyn, even though they're under tower. It's going to be relatively hard to dive them. I should be scrolling my map. I don't scroll my map here to get as much information as I could, but this is something I should have been doing, is scrolling my map to the bot lane and looking. But in this case, we see that Urgot's half health with a wave pushing. As you can see, since the red wave is obviously pushing because there's more minions, it means that it's likely that Urgot soon walks forward, and which is why I decided to walk up here. Now he actually does a good job of baiting. He probably assumes I'm there, and so he ends up kind of walking and then walking back right after. I'm assuming is his goal there. We do blow his flash, but yeah, we don't get any insane value. And then you see he does it again. We don't have many other places to stand, and you see I'm basically just trying to see if I can catch him out. But then notice the time where I actually try to recall fully, and he does stop me. But the time where I try to recall fully is around 2:20, since that's when my camps are going to start respawning on the red side. And so since the red side camps are now respawning for me, that means that Jarvan's red side camps are respawning because we're on the opposite side. And so we're just going to listen to like what I say, which is basically just me telling Teemo, and you're going to see with the ping that Teemo is going to get ganked.
Probably only about a 10% chance.
I think you hear this.
If I'm the jungler, I kind of want to look for a top side play.
Middle turret is under danger.
So again, I just wanted to briefly play the sound so you guys would hear. Basically, I say if I'm their jungler, I would want to look for a topside play. And again, the reasons I know that is because he's going to go topside because we're opposite side, because Teemo is a low mobility top laner who's easy and squishy to kill, and we see Jarvan does exactly that. Again, we pinged about 15 seconds ago. Telling Teemo, I probably should have spam pinged. Again, that's the thing about pings as well. So a lot of times spam pinging rather than doing it once is beneficial. And so what I want to focus on is a lot of the jungle tracking things and how you can kind of get more value from it. So initial things I could have done, again, I could spam ping harder. Again, they're not going to listen a lot of time anyway, but spam pinging harder would be more optimal. And yeah, we'd just be in a bit of a better spot if we do that. And then here, another reason that I know I can actually gank this Lux is because their Jarvan doesn't really have a good ability to respond, because he ganked topside and used his ultimate and used a lot of resources, which means by the time he comes, I'm going to be able to get a gank off. And so even though I die, because the kill goes to Lux, Lux loses the mid wave, it ends up being valuable. You can see my Ziggs is still even gold, and I obviously get a gold lead from getting those kills. So again, understanding, like, typically ganking mid is hard, but ganking mid after the enemy jungler has used a lot of resources is a lot easier, because then they can't respond to your gank. Because the reason the ganking mid is so hard is because it can be responded to by anyone. You can see a random top laner showed up, for example, there. But oftentimes the enemy jungler will respond. And so if you know they have used their resources, like their ultimates or their flashes or things like that, you know you're probably in a pretty good spot. So being able to put yourself in the enemy jungler's shoes like that is going to be beneficial for deciding whether or not you want to gank. and stuff like that. So again, here, obviously we see Jarvan. Again, we know Jarvan's typically going to be opposite side. And what that means is that if I have my blue side that I'm clearing right now, he's probably about finished clearing his blue side. But because we saw him waste some time on a mid gank, we know he's likely still sitting around blue side for a little longer. And as we said, it's not really till 5 minutes, 5:15, until his red side is going to be really respawning. Again, the similar time to when we'll see my red side respawn. And that's when he's not going to be ganking. So here, you're going to see Jarvan show up in a second. And it's entirely plausible that he would be here. Given the information I have, he could kind of be anywhere at the moment. But what you're going to see is, since my camps are spawning on red side and his camps are spawning on red side, I'm pretty happy to just keep him here. Because the longer that he stays here, the more time he kind of loses because he has to recall and then go to the other side. Meanwhile, I get to stay on the same side because my camps are spawning here. So just sitting here and just pretty much doing nothing and messing with him is perfectly fine with me, even if I take a bit of damage. And obviously, if we wanted to, we wanted to see if we could dive the duo lane there. And then because of that, we just get this slight pacing advantage that you're going to see now, because again, he has to recall and go red side. Meanwhile, I can instantly go red side. And so one thing I could have done here, which again, I don't do, but it's just something I could have done. And here we look for the mid gank. So it kind of makes sense that we end up doing this instead, just because we know that the Lux has no flash from earlier. And so again, this is an initial thing. It's like I have that additional pacing advantage to make a play like this because their jungler, again, had to recall and would be clearing his red side at that point. But another thing I could do if I wanted is after clearing my 2 small camps, I could skip red and go cover top if I think a top gank is going to happen. So obviously that didn't happen in this situation, but that's something that could happen. And then the final thing you're going to see here is, because I know that I'm decently strong, I end up wanting to match and fight Jarvan here just because I know I'm about to hit level 9 as well, which is going to be a level advantage on him. And so I decide to contest Herald. So why do I know he's probably going to go Herald? Because of the fact that, again, his red side camps are the ones that were respawning. He didn't really have enough time to clear all of his red side and then go back to blue side. So he's most likely on Dragon, or on Herald rather. And so since I know he's probably on Herald, if I want to contest, I can contest. And if I don't want to contest, then again, I can just go Dragon. But either way, I have enough information to know what's probably going to happen. And I use that information to get the jump on him in a pretty decent manner. Now you're going to see, unfortunately, I messed up my auto attack. Like I start autoing Lux. If I just used my ult right away, it would have been better. Like mechanically, I mess up there. If I just ult onto him right away, or I flash auto him and then ult the Lux, like I'm going to be chilling there. So result-wise, not great, but like again, choice-wise, you can see why I decided to go there due to our tracking of the jungler. So some of the things, again, you can do with the enemy jungle tracking is you can decide whether or not you want to contest him. You can decide whether or not you want to counter gank, or whether you just want to stay on your pretty normal path, that type of thing. And so in here, we know he's probably going to contest Dragon. And because I know he's going to contest Dragon, I don't really want to go in 50-50 the Dragon after I just died. What I'd way rather do is clear all of my blue side, which is a guaranteed 450 gold. And then I can go do whatever I want with that information afterwards. And so, again, we just end up going here, and then not really contesting, and then playing around just getting turrets out. Since we do see him bot side, playing around the turrets first, making sure I get as much gold to myself as possible, and then going and contesting the game or the dive after is going to give me a lot of value. So basically, like what I end up getting done here is not only do I get all of my top side camps cleared, but I also get my, where you can see his top side or his blue side camps aren't cleared, but then I get the mid wave pushed plus the mid turret, and then I still get to go and come and late contest this all again because I'm being more efficient with my time. Meanwhile, he kind of overvalued the objective there, which means yes, he gets a dragon, but multiple of his people die. Even though they get some kills earlier, I'm able to get all my camps cleared, and then I'm just a lot more efficient. Because again, his blue side's still up. Meanwhile, my blue side, I'd already cleared, but it does look like our Krugs got invaded. Not the end of the world losing one camp, but that is something that can happen as well. They kind of flip where he invades my Krugs potentially in these types of situations. But overall, again, you can see just from the information that we have in the jungle, we can make different plays. And this is where a lot of times when I talk to people about like people say like, oh, I do a lot of things I see in your videos, but and my voice didn't crack there, you didn't hear that, but they do a lot of things they see in my videos, and then they still don't feel like they're having as much success as I do in games. A lot of reasons for that are going to be related to more things like this, where this is a lot more context required. Like, knowing where the enemy jungler is and then making decisions based on that, it requires a lot more context, requires a lot more decision making, whereas a lot of the other things I tell you guys, like push your wave before you roam, do this or that or the other thing, it's just a thing you just do every time, you don't have to think about it. But these types of things, again, like sometimes, for example, you could skip a camp in order to go counter gank topside because you know he's going to dive topside because you put yourself in his mind. Again, like if we looked at that earlier situation where Teemo I knew he was going to get ganked topside, you know, around 240 it was. If I know he's probably going to get ganked there, I could stop and be more inefficient in order to stop that gank. In this situation, again, it didn't make sense for me to, because I would lose too much on my red side. I'd lose too much time and it's too risky. I just ping him instead and hope he listens. But again, these are the different situations where you can make those other decisions. So again, we knew his blue side was still up now, because when we killed him, we saw the Gromp was up. So we knew that he would go back to blue side most likely. And now I just get a bunch of time to farm top side for free. And my top laner ends up just going to bot, which is fine with me, because now all I can do is, okay, I get the top side, then I can go and look for an invade, see if any of his camps are up, because again, he hasn't cleared his blue side in quite a while, which means if he hasn't cleared his blue side in quite a while, then he's probably going to have all of them up, because again, he was on his blue side but didn't clear it, and then goes back to blue side. That probably means his red side's going to soon be respawning. Because of that, we're able to get some invades off. Urgot follows us, so we end up just going to the mid wave instead of, you know, full invading. Otherwise, I would have taken everything. But we still get a bunch of different stuff. And then now we have our blue side spawning. We also have the ability to look for a gank on someone here, because I knew Lux is probably going to be here, but I don't quite find her. But regardless, we get some of the wave, and then we get to go back to top side now. And so again, I've basically just gotten a lot more value out of my time due to the fact that I know where he is and I know which camps are up. Then you can also see me squeezing in some waves here, and then we end up finding the engage onto the Seraphine and killing her as well. Getting the wave push while getting that kill, then getting to go clear my entire blue side. And you can just see the efficiency difference. I mean, I think I'm up like 3,000 gold on him or something like that. Squeezing more waves, you can see me going top wave now. Just constantly trying to get as much gold from all these waves as possible, which is obviously an important thing. And then I end up trying to greed this and trying to hope that my team notices or that I can get out, because I have flash and I have other things. So I know, like, hey, I can get this. Realistically, my team should follow, and I can stall pretty long with my gargoyle. I don't really remember the outcome of this, but I don't think it was too bad. Yeah, we end up getting like 1 HP. Yeah, and then Urgot didn't reclick his ult. This is where I learned that Urgot has to reclick his ult. I always thought that Urgot had to, like, if Urgot landed his ult and you fell below a certain amount of HP, that you just die. But apparently he has to click it, and he didn't see that I was low enough and didn't click it. That's what I was told. I didn't even know that was how. I don't play Urgot. I don't think anyone plays Urgot. But yeah, so that's a thing, and I didn't die because of it. But again, we knew we could kind of squeeze out that turret and then stall as my team was coming. Didn't work out ideally, but didn't work out bad either, you know. And then we were like thinking we could maybe do Baron, but realistically it's a bit too risky, and so we just end up seeing if we can turn on Urgot. But they are respawning, so I don't want to overextend too much here. So I do go on this. Honestly, shouldn't have even done that. You can see me thinking like, okay, like Jarvan's probably going to come, and then we do see Jarvan, and we get the stun proc on him from the Braum. And yeah, I mean, everything from this point is pretty straightforward, but I just mainly wanted to kind of speak to you guys about the jungle tracking stuff and show you guys what's going through my mind, and how a lot of times like you don't actually do anything with the information, and then here I get CC'd for like an hour and a half. So that was definitely pretty bad by me. I shouldn't have gone in this deep, but yeah, that was a lot of CC. But yeah, a lot of times you don't actually do that much with the information that you get from jungle tracking, because like again, if I'm opposite side of the enemy Jarvan and he decides to go gank my Teemo, I'm not necessarily going to go stop my Teemo from getting ganked a lot of time, because then I'm going to lose out on so much gold. I'd much rather be much more efficient and, you know, kind of use that to just outpace him and then hopefully carry the game myself. But having this information, again, it allows you to understand like when I can contest a Herald, because maybe they're going the Herald and I want to contest, or they're probably going the Herald because again his camps are on that side and I don't want to contest, or maybe you know his camps on the Herald side are spawning and then you see him on Dragon and you're like, oh, if I win this Dragon fight, I can go invade him. Or you can just be like, oh, I'm just not going to contest Dragon. I'm going to go invade him. I'm going to get 450 free gold from his camps, and then I can probably contest Herald afterwards and have a decent. Those are like all these different things, right? Like that is really what matters. And that's a lot of the kind of context I like talking about, because a lot of times I tell people like the game is very contextual. There's a lot of different things you have to understand if you want to be at like my level of gameplay. But those are the things that are harder to describe. So that's again why I'm trying to describe it here a bit. So you guys understand. It's a lot more unique and it's a lot more like problem solving based. So I guess like if you do, you know, some type of basic problem, like you can a lot of times just follow the same process over and over. And then the types of problems and, you know, I don't know, math classes or whatever that are more difficult are things that are, again, going to require you to like think outside the box in some way. And that's kind of what this is. It's not like you're doing anything crazy complicated, but it is just a bit more involved and requires you, again, to think a bit more specifically about the unique situation you're in. Take into these factors, or take into account these factors, and then go from there when it comes to your decision making, rather than just doing whatever Talon told you to do in a YouTube video. Because all of the things I tell you guys to do in these videos, again, they're not going to ring true in every single game. Because if they did, then everyone would just be as good as me. Like if they were all able to, you know, do all the same things, or I would be as good as players who are better than me. If all of the things that they told me were as simple as they say, but obviously I simplify things so that you guys can understand and that they're easy to comprehend and they're easy to recreate. And in 95% of scenarios, those are the things that are going to work. But this is the type of thing, again, using that jungle information that is going to be a bit more complicated. And in my opinion, is the hardest part of jungle, is making decisions based on the enemy jungler's decision making, basically, is kind of the gist of it. But I know I haven't been talking a lot about the last 4 or 5 minutes. That's because it's largely just been, we're strong, we fight around Baron, we win fights. Not too much more than that. You can see a lot of the earlier concepts, again, from the jungle tracking stuff that I talked about, but also a lot of the concepts I applied are just me farming on the opposite side of the map while the enemy jungler tries to force a bunch of fights, and then becoming 1,000,000 gold ahead of him and using that 1,000,000 gold to be way stronger and win every fight. And then now, again, we can just run at people with Baron, and there's not a whole lot they can do about it. I get the kill before Caitlyn ult does. Screw you, Caitlyn. And we're pretty fed from here, obviously. Like, I'm 15k gold. I didn't see what Jarvan was, so I kind of want to look. But yeah, at this point, I don't know. I'm 15k gold, and Jarvan is 9.8k, so I'm 5k gold ahead. And he's died 7 times. So this is also, like, the other thing is his gameplay is obviously very reliant on fights working. My gameplay isn't. Like, even though I'm 10 kills, I don't need 10 kills to be strong. This is just a game where it so happened that I got a bunch of kills as well. And obviously, once you're strong, it's pretty easy to get a bunch of kills. But you're not reliant on getting kills in order to actually be, like, able to carry and whatnot. Which is also what's important, kind of, you know, understanding that farming and valuing the gold, valuing the side waves, that type of thing is definitely going to be more valuable. And yeah, I mean, we basically stomped through here. I don't remember if we end yet or not. I guess not. I guess I get my Thornmail. Now I'm full build. So I'm a full build Vi at 16.5 minutes. I mean, if you're full build at 16.5 minutes, you're probably going to win most games in general. And so yeah, we go to the objectives. They use multiple global ultimates. And then we're able to get that. And yeah, I mean, from here, we just pretty much can force fights. And I'm way stronger than everyone. So as long as I don't instantly die, probably going to be all right. Yeah, I mean, that's basically what you see here. Like, I can just CC them for an hour as the Ziggs hits them all. And I wanted the Penta here. I was like, oh, maybe there's a small chance I could get the Penta, but I did not get the Penta. Spoiler alert. I was very sad about it. I actually cried last night. It's how I fell asleep. Like, crying helps you fall asleep sometimes, so that's what I did. I, like, thought about all the Pentas that I have not gotten, and I used that to fall asleep. It was very relaxing. It was very nice. I'm just saying random things at this point until this video is over, because the game's almost over, as you guys can see. So, you know, there we go. We ended the game. You don't have to listen to me talk about crying because of my lost Pentas anymore. Hope this video was useful in some way, shape, or form to you guys. If you have questions about this or like more specific scenarios, feel free to ask in the comments, because again, this is just like one example of a game where I utilize jungle tracking to some extent. And again, I didn't even utilize a lot of things in this video because, like I said, you don't always actually use all the information, but it's important to understand how to gather the information and how it can potentially be useful in certain scenarios. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video.